White nationalist Nick Fuentes is playing for the Republican Party.
Go back to the ticket. We've moved over here to the conversation corner. 27-year-old Nick Fuentes is a MAGA-adjacent podcaster with an audience in the millions. He's a white nationalist who traffics in anti-Semitic tropes and is unremittingly hostile to gay rights and civil rights. As we have discussed here on this program, Tucker Carlson recently interviewed Fuentes without pressing him on his fringe views. That has divided and continues to divide the conservative MAGA movement. Now Fuentes wants to play a role in GOP mobilization leading up to the midterm elections. Tanner Nah joins me now with fresh reporting on Fuentes' intentions. Tanner is with the Free Press, which you as probably know, owned by CBS's parent company, Paramount Skydance. Tanner, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining
Thanks
me.
for having me.
So, what are Nick's intentions, and what are the implications of those intentions for the broader MAGA Republican Party and movement?
Yeah, so Nick's intentions, in his own words, is to infiltrate politics, to take over the Republican Party and bring it in line with some of his more extreme views that are racist, anti-Semitic, and opposed to people of color. It's something that he's been planning on doing, something that he talks about in his stream nightly, but this move to create a foundation is really the next step in that.
And how would he make that real? How is he going to try to do this? Is he raising money? Is he going to do voter mobilization things? Is it beyond the podcast and streaming space?
Yeah, so my report at the Free Press outlines how he is revamping a America First Foundation, which is a 501c4 that allows him to raise money from major donors, create programming. Will not disclose them and be able to give those to candidates moving forward in the midterms. And explicitly, he wants to influence the midterms to be more in line with his agenda.
And what does the Trump White House, if anything, think about this?
You know, it's unsure. We talked to some White House officials. Some of them brushed it off. Some of them said it's very unfortunate that Nick Fuentes has such a large following, and that some of those voters might be vocal and might demand that some of these Republican candidates cater to their interests. It's unclear just because it's such an online phenomenon. But going forward, it's something that GOP operatives are definitely going to be looking at.
And the Tucker Carlson of it, how, based on your reporting, is that being evaluated and being debated within the conservative and MAGA movement?
Absolutely. It is completely fracturing and stoking these huge arguments. The Tucker Carlson interview with Nick Fuentes got millions of views, brought Nick really into the spotlight in a way he hadn't been before.
Terminology I've heard, glazing.
Glazing, yes. Tucker Carlson, it was not a combative interview. It was quite friendly. It was much more friendly than it was with someone like Senator Ted Cruz that Tucker interviewed just a few months ago.
And lots of people within the movement, MAGA and conservative, have spoken out about this. And it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tanner, that it is in part a generational divide. Young men, for whatever set of reasons, maybe they don't know enough about history, maybe they need a little bit more history about the Holocaust, about World War II, about who Stalin was, who Hitler was. But for whatever set of reasons, they have, at least for the moment, gravitated in Nick's direction. That's given him a kind of accumulated online clout, has it not?
Absolutely, absolutely. Nick Fuentes is wildly popular online. He does a nightly stream that goes for hours, but online on Instagram and X, these sound bites are 30 seconds to a minute long. And they, as has been said, are very, very racist, anti-Semitic sometimes. And
it's so funny that they keep bringing up Nick Fuentes glazing Stalin. The mind of a liberal, man. They unironically will be like, no, Stalin and Hitler? That's crazy. It's like, bro, come on. There is a difference. You know what I mean? Please. There is a very significant difference, especially in terms of defeating Hitler. They act as though it's even worse that he says Stalin than Adolf Hitler. And as long as liberals have this psychotic anti-communist, anti-socialist slant, they will never be able to distinguish. As long as they try to sit smack dab in the center of this, like, and this is not to say Stalin is devoid of criticism, right? Like, there's plenty of worthy criticism of Stalin as well. But like, the idea that you are sitting at the center, at the comfortable center here of anti-Nazi and anti-socialist, anti-communist sentiment is part of the problem, is part of the reason. This like universalization of like extremes on both sides is unironically how we got here, where Nazis can be like, well, these guys have a different alternative, that they're an alternative vision for society, and so do we. What's so different about it? You're eating the bait when you bring up Stalin. This isn't to say like, oh, you should defend Stalin or whatever. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying that you're playing into this idiotic worldview where you end up normalizing Nazis more. when you look to socialism and communism as equivalent dangerous ideology as Nazism, you don't end up actually successfully tarnishing both values or both ideals. You did for the longest time during the Cold War, certainly. But nowadays, when you do that, you're not actually successfully pushing people away. You end up simply playing a role in normalizing Nazi ideology as simply a deviation, a different way of existence, a different ideology. It's not. There's a reason why certain ideologies are more dangerous than others. There is a reason also why initially Nazi historians and pro-Nazi historians and pro-Nazi analysts were doing the double Holocaust theory, right? It's a form of Holocaust revisionism and Holocaust denial, where they would engage in this like double genocide theory to be like, well, the USSR was also just as genocidal, if not worse, because then ultimately you look at the numbers and you're like, well, they killed even more people. Look at the Black Book of Communism. Communism has killed 700 million people on the planet. They've killed every person on the planet. Don't you think that's worse than Nazism? You're opening the door to say like Nazis were actually not as bad as the communists were. And then also the final version of that ideology is to basically say we fought the wrong side on World War II, which is, you know, when you come to the maximalist conclusion that maybe the Nazis weren't so bad, right?
These sell online, and there's a large contingent of young people, particularly, they call themselves Groypers, those are his fans, that are really coming of age and entering, staffs and politics and growing up and getting into the halls of power. So it's something to watch, and it's something that the Republican Party is going to have to contend with. And it is generational in terms of older versus younger.
And you use that term, Groyper. Is there a definition, a understood definition of what a Groyper either thinks or believes?
So a Groyper is a broad term that Nick Fuentes coined.
Right there.
He did. Yes, so it is singular to him.
Hopefully it has all of
sort
the...
of parasocial relationship between
charged
him
it